Hello, little villains. Welcome back to the Hit or Quit feed here on RHAP, where we are back again to recap episode 6 of the amazing House of Villains. And I'm excited because we've got an amazing panel. With me today, as always, my co-pilot on this villainous voyage, I guess you could call it, the wonderful Chappell. Chappell, how are you?
Jenny, I'm good. I'm great. I am enjoying watching this show so much. I've been looking forward to this all week. There are no floaters in the House of Villains, and I am very, very excited because I am not a floater. I'm
Omarosa
here
would
to stay.
disagree.
Well, she says like they're not allowed, but you know what? As far as I'm concerned, all these villains are allowed, and I'm very happy to talk about it. Again, been waiting for this all week, Jenny. This is like anticipated television for me.
It is for me too, and it's something I'm looking forward to at the beginning of the week all week, and I love that I get to like cap off the end of my week doing this with you. Like it truly, I have podcasted so much terrible television, and still had a really good time with it. But I can't say enough how fun it is to podcast about fun, good television with someone that I love. So this is great, and also today, it's not just me, Chappell. We've got the amazing Chantele Francis joining us today. Chantele, how are you?
I'm amazing. Obviously, House of Villains.
Yes.
When I saw the original trailer, I got goosebumps. Am I cool or what? I was like, oh my God, what is this show? It's amazing. And it really hasn't let me down. I also look forward to watching the show. I'm like, ooh, I get to talk about it. That means I have to watch it like in depth and like really like watch everything that these crazy people are doing. Love the show. Love that I'm here to talk about it. So yeah, it's just a good day today.
I feel like this show was like a fever dream. Like when we saw that this was happening, we were like, this is like something that we would have joked about happening. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we got all these like huge characters onto one single television show? The fact that it exists and it's been delivering even on episodes, and I'll just get in front of this, even on episodes like this one, where I think that there were points that maybe were a little bit more subdued, it still delivers. And every person on the cast has a purpose. It's so freaking good. So I'd love to hear, Chantele, just because we haven't got a chance to talk to you about it yet, like how beyond this episode here today, how have you been feeling about the run for House of Villains so far and some of the people we've lost already?
Well, obviously, New York leaving was really, really upsetting and heartbreaking. And I haven't seen all of it. Surprising, I know, but I haven't seen all of her original show, Flavor Flav. Like, I saw like bits and pieces of it back in the day, and then people used to think that I was New York, so like people would be like New York, and like that was one of like my celebrity doppelgangers. And so to see her on the show, I'm like, oh my God, I love New York. I watched her on the Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother UK, and I'm just like, I've just always been really, really a big fan of her. So the fact that she actually was on the cast, she's always rumored on every cast, she's actually on the cast. Yeah. So blessed that we got to have a little bit of her. I kind of wish it was a little bit longer though, but maybe she only had like two full episodes or 2 full cycles in her contract or something like that, because she wanted to get out of there. Like, she kind of set that up for herself. I pretty much knew all of the villains, except for Anfisa. I don't really watch 90 Day Fiance, and who's the other person I don't? Oh, and Bobby Lay. I don't really watch Love and Hip Hop. I think it's from Miami.
Yeah.
Well, you and Spencer are in the same boat.
Yeah,
exactly. I know Spencer. I watch The Hills.
Oh, girl, me too. I watched Laguna Beach and then right into The Hills. Like I did the whole gambit of that reality television. So, but we will get to Spencer. I keep thinking like New York's come back, right? Like I don't think I've come to terms with her being gone still. It's been now 2 full episodes without her, and I just keep thinking that like they're gonna cut to the bedroom and she's gonna be in her charging port, as I said, where she's like she's just been there the entire time, just like powered down, and she's coming back. I feel truly like Delulu at this point.
At the end, they're gonna bring back all the villains. I just don't feel like they're all gone yet. Yeah, like a jury, or like they're gonna have to get campaign to people and get people on their side. Like I feel like it's not the last time we're seeing New York. So it's okay, Jenny.
Well,
You'll see
and
her again.
that's the thing. And if there's one thing that a show that is being podcasted about on the Hit or Quit feed has, it's the fact that we never know how the hell it's going to end.
Mhm.
I don't ever understand the structure of the show I'm podcasting about and how it's going to end. And this is no exception, because there is a non-zero chance that there could be some sort of jury like function, because how are we going to get eventually, we're already getting down to so few people that banishments are going to become more and more predictable. So we've got to get to a point where there's only a single winner as far as we are aware. How do you guys think that this show is going to like actually end? Because how do we get to a winner? Shabelle, what do
It's
you
gotta
think is
be a
going to
jury,
happen?
right? Like, it's gotta be a jury.
I
Most of the
mean,
shows that have like the big cast and you whittle them down and you get to a final two or something, you normally need a way to prove that one person is more worthy than the rest of them. But since this is a house of villains, unless they're going to do something villainous and decide amongst themselves, or maybe a competition. But I think that's not fun, right? These people are
No.
not known for their competition prowess. They're known for being villainous. So I think it'd be very fun to bring back the jury of fallen villains who might have an axe to grind, and then force them
mhm.
to vote for somebody that they might hate. In a lot of these shows, it's vote for the person you like the best. But since these are villains, it could very much be vote for the lesser evil, and it's all of them are just evil. So how do you pick between Shake and Omarosa? Especially if they both pissed you off. I would love to see that. I think that's probably the most
Yeah,
exciting version of this for me.
Yeah,
for
they
sure. And
definitely have to vote. It has
I
to. It has to come into play.
I would hope so, because that gives us the perfect opportunity to show more of why some of these people are villains. Like, some people in reality TV become perceived villains simply because of how they, you know, act once they are no longer in running for the game, how they act on a jury, who they vote for. Like, I think we would be robbed to not have these people pissed off and coming back and facing the people that beat them out in some sort of fashion. Even if it isn't a vote, having them come back and have some sort of like panel, or I don't really know what that could look like. But I think it's really funny because like the criteria of who deserves to be here is something that like keeps coming up. It comes up in this episode. And I just think it's so funny because it's like there are people looking at the show being like, we need to keep people that are like truly villains here. Like, you deserve to be on this show because you're actually villainous. And I just think it's like a very interesting way of looking at how, when you have a cast that's literally branded as all villains, like, what are
Who's
you
the
doing
lesser
to
villain?
determine like someone's ability to be here? And as this episode ends, we get what I think was like a little bit of a blindside, at least for me personally, seeing Corinne ultimately the one eliminated here. Arguably, probably like the least villainous in this cast at this point, right? Like,
She's like a sweetheart, like compared to everybody else, I would say. I was also surprised that Corinne left this episode. But she didn't necessarily bring villain. And if they're going with the person, like, Omarosa is basically saying she doesn't want floaters around. Well, I think that Tanisha wasn't really floating after the challenge. Like, I think she was trying to prove that she deserved to be there. And Corinne hasn't really done anything villainous other than maybe massaging Banana's feet.
Yeah, I
well,
think Corinne made enemies in a way that Tanisha just didn't. I wasn't surprised by this
yeah.
at all. Shake has no love for Corinne. You see that he immediately he goes after her in that challenge in the dark, and then we see a couple people saying they want to vote with the house, right? And so we know Shake is not going to vote out Tanisha. We know that Bananas, it could go either way, but he wants to vote with the house. We see that Bobby even goes and starts campaigning. So by the time the votes are ready and they're unanimous, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's definitely Corinne. But I don't think Corinne's less villainous than the rest of them. I just think that Tanisha's more socially ingrained in the house. I think that, with Corinne very much looking like someone who might be in Omarosa, or even, well, not Omarosa when she put him up, but, in Bananas' pocket, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, let's cut her. Let's cut off one of these extra pieces and really start building maybe an army against Omarosa, because Omarosa is the one person who really wanted Corinne gone in this episode. And wanted Tanisha gone in this episode, and everybody betrayed her. by taking
Yeah.
out somebody, you know, against the head of household or the supervillain of the week's wishes. So I think it was a good move, but I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, oh, it's her time.
I
Yeah, I
think that
definitely feel
was
it's a good move because
oh,
like
for
just like
sure.
for Omarosa just to have some conflict, keep the conflict in the house. Don't make it easy
Yes.
for Omarosa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that was like what was, you know, probably the most pleasant surprise to me was that literally everyone went against Omarosa. Like, you know, we talked about this from a couple episodes ago where, or maybe it was even just last episode, where Fair Play kind of gets like a little bit of a warning that Omarosa, it feels like she could risk him if she needed to. And so this is the first that we see him go against what she wants along with everyone else here. I just think that it's so with Corinne, it's not that I'm saying that she's not a villain. I just think that, you know, we see her only really showing her villain side in confessionals.
Right.
Like she brings it in confessionals and she was confessional gold and I think
Yeah.
that she brought so much to the 6 episodes we ultimately got her for. But in like the day-to-day stuff, she's a sweetie. Like she's like so nice to everyone. But we have seen like when you push her buttons, especially certain ones, that's where it comes up. And I think that is the case for a lot of these people. But even when she does get pissed off, it's not to the same level as some of these other people. She doesn't like go for as low of blows, I think, that some of these people do. So if we're still doing rankings of villains, like I do feel like she was lower on the like ranking in terms of being like a true like devil in the game. But do we feel like this weakens Bananas, or like in a way I almost feel like this strengthens Bananas? Because like if anything, like isn't his head going to be a little bit more in the game?
I think it does strengthen Bananas. I think that Tanisha is a better ally for him for the fact that she is going to come for Omarosa.
Yep.
Even in that challenge, you saw that like Corinne was helping what Omarosa wanted to do, and she kind of got her. Well, both her and Tanisha got themselves into trouble here, but I feel like Bananas can rely on Tanisha with the pots and the pans and like, you know, just doing other things that are more extreme. And she has the comebacks. Corinne didn't have any comebacks. And I think that Bananas wants someone that can like bring the bars just to be able to go up against Omarosa. So I think it's a better ally for him to stay in the game.
Yeah, and even just somebody who has publicly announced that they're coming from Omarosa is good for everybody because you know where Tanisha's head is. You know, if she wins, Omarosa, you know, you're in danger. You're in danger, girl. And it's true. And I think for Corinne, at best, maybe Shake's in danger, and Shake's no threat to Bananas. I don't think, you know, Shake is looking to target him, and so he's thinking, well, you know, I need somebody who's going to really protect me from the Omarosa fight, you know, because Omarosa is going after Bananas' main allies here, Corinne, Tanisha, and Shake were all in his pocket, and so he's like, okay, I need someone who's not going to, one, turn on one of my people like Shake, and two, who's going to go after somebody who's very clearly said that they'd be willing to use me as a pawn if necessary, or I need to go up. You know, he kind of had to draw the line that's in the sand last episode and tell Omarosa, hey, if you come for me, I'm coming for you too. And so I think this really does maneuver himself into a position where there are more people targeting Omarosa that are ever going to be targeting Bananas. So for me, this just made sense. I think losing Corinne, it's like, yeah, they get along. They can flirt outside of the game. Like, they'll
That's
be
the
home
thing
soon.
is like he can hit her up in like 7 days whenever this ends, you know.
Right. It's not that long of a show.
And
Wait, so
it's happened already, I'm sure.
why is Anfisa not considered a floater? Because like
Because she's
Precisely.
Omarosa's floater. You know, she's in Omarosa's pocket.
Omarosa is nonstop talking about floaters, and I'm like, girl, you have the biggest floater in the
But
game
she
as your
has her.
right-hand woman. But that's yeah. I would
Exactly.
just love her to show that self-awareness though. Like I would love to get the confessional from Omarosa being like, listen, the worst thing in the game is like a game like this is a floater. Unless that floater is
working
working
for
in
you.
your direct interest. And you know what I mean? So like acknowledge the hypocrisy here and say that you're using it as you like, because it benefits you. Because I think now again, is Anfisa truly working for Omarosa because she technically went against her here? So I think like more of the bigger deal here than fair play going against Omarosa's wishes is Anfisa, because those two have not had any reason, like that nothing's gone wrong between the two of them. So I mean, I'm sure she can go back on the I had to do what the rest of the house was doing. But she maybe could have like given Omarosa a heads up.
Maybe
Like
she did. We didn't see it. But
maybe.
I was surprised though, because like most of the episode, she's talking about the fact that like, well, between Corinne and Shake, Corinne is somebody that I trust more. We didn't really hear how she feels about Tanisha, but it didn't seem like she wanted to keep Tanisha. She found her loud, and she's not a morning person, and she doesn't really want her energy in the house. And so I was surprised that it was unanimous. We'll say.
Yeah. And Fisa even said in the Tanisha and Omarosa's fights, we saw that Corinne was like in Tanisha's corner. She's like, Omarosa, like if you don't want people to come for you, just stop talking, just shut up. But then you cut to Anfisa and she goes, Tanisha's always starting stuff with Omarosa. Why is she like this? I really don't need this energy. And so it looked like Anfisa was, very much in Omarosa's corner. But I don't know. I feel like word got around to Anfisa and she said, I gotta vote with the house. I question whether or not this was a blindside. Is there any world where Omarosa did not know that it was going to be unanimous? Because these aren't the most subtle people.
Yeah, that's true. She did look like pissed off the entire time, but also she just has like incredible stone face. So it's really hard to say. She's always just looking intense. So that might have but I don't know. We get the confessional from her at the end that said this was a disaster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she didn't know it was going to be a disaster going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
maybe game recognizes game, she likes to say, and so maybe she's like, you know what, Tanisha did bring it. I can see that maybe the house might be flipping, so maybe she wasn't surprised, but not happy about it.
Exactly. I don't think she faults Anfisa for going with the house, especially if I mean Bobby's openly campaigning, at this point, So I think she sees it and just says, one of them has to go. Whoever's coming back is probably going to be against me anyway. I'd rather it be Tanisha, but if I have to settle for losing Corinne here, then that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean the difference is that we saw Bobby like clearly saying to Omarosa that he was on the fence about his vote. So if she's going to blame anyone, I don't necessarily think she's looking directly at an Anfisa or a fair play and is being like, you were more of the swing vote here in Bobby, because he was clearly saying that he wasn't sure what he was going to do. But do we really feel like did Bobby control this vote? Like who controlled this vote? Who was the decider?
I kind of feel like it was Bobby. I think Bobby was the one who really put his neck out on the line. I mean, don't get me wrong, Bananas is probably swaying these votes too, but I think the person who looked the most active in trying to save somebody was Bobby. He was literally going door to door. And he was even trying to calm Tanisha down throughout the episode. When she goes to charge up New York, Omarosa, originally, Bobby jumps in the way like, hey, it's just a game. It's all good. You're so angry. What's going on? I'm thinking, Bobby, move. This is what we do here. But I think for Bobby, he's like, I don't really love Corinne, and Corinne went against New York, and he never let that go. He said, I'm supposed to be getting back at her anyway, so if one of them has to go, and y'all don't have any real strong preference here, I think it'd be Tanisha, that he would want to save. And so I think Bobby put his neck out on the line. Tanisha's done a really good job socially. We talked about this last week, is that she was blindsided by Omarosa because she felt like she was good with everybody. And so I don't think it's hard to get people to keep Tanisha around. Tanisha, although she is a villain and she can go to these levels, she's a very nice person. She seems like great to hang out with. I would love to spend time with Tanisha. So between Tanisha and Corinne, I feel like Bobby just had to make a decision and he went with whichever one he felt more strongly about.
Now, I know we don't know the format of the show, but do you think that they know how it's going to end? And so maybe this is like some sort of slight campaigning, being like, oh, if I need New York's vote, being like, oh, I came and I got out somebody that betrayed you. Like maybe he's pandering here.
I mean, he runs and gives Corinne a hug, which was not really a hug because she was strapped to a chair, and
No, I love
says,
that so much.
like, you were my favorite. Like, here's how I feel about Bobby. I love him on my TV. He is brilliant. He is great. I have not seen any of his previous work. But when I look at how Bobby moves, the saying that comes to mind is, like, with friends like these, who needs enemies?
Yeah.
Because you cannot rely on this man for
No.
anything. He is the bullshittiest bullshitter. Like, I can't tell if he just is so obsessed with telling people what he thinks they want to hear, or if he truly is like going back and forth. You see this conversation with like Anfisa where he's like,
Antifa.
I think, or sorry, Antifa. Yes, of course. That's what he knows her as, Antifa. I was like, oh, I don't know if we want to be
How
spreading
long
that.
were they in the house? He doesn't know her name.
It's been a week and a half at least, Chantele.
Yeah,
Antifa.
I'm pretty sure it was like day 10 at like this point or something, and he's still her name is Antifa. They have this conversation though where he's like, yeah, I think we should take out Corinne. And she's like, well, I don't want to take out Corinne. Like, she protected me. And then he's like, oh yeah, you're right. I did say I owed her. Like, he's so back and forth. Like, I just don't know how you could rely on someone like him, because he's throwing you under the bus in 1 minute. The next minute, he's telling you that you're his favorite person and he loves you. Like, I could not figure out what he really wanted the entire episode, because he was bullshitting everyone. But I'm like, is this bullshit? Because he's the same with everyone. Like, he's got that same energy. And I'm like, that would stress me out. It's like having that friend where they talk so much shit about everyone, and like even to you, and like even people that you're like, I thought you rode with them. And then you're like, I am not the exception to the rule.
Yeah,
you know,
they're talking shit about you for sure.
like, I'm not special here. I can't trust that. So that's how I feel about Bobby. And that is like someone that I feel like is so freaking dangerous, when they will stab any of their friends in the back, but make it feel like they did it for a good reason. Like, that's scary.
Are him and Bananas friends again? I know that they kind of broke
Right.
up a
Who
bit.
knows? Right.
Who knows?
It's really hard to know. I feel like Bobby is naturally just a personable person. Like, he's used to
Yes.
doing that. But I think that maybe Bobby's not very familiar with how these like social strategy games work, because a lot of times, not to BS people when they're going to go and they're going to vote, they're going to potentially have a vote or a say so in the end. And I think at the end of this, yeah, it feels like Bobby is pandering to them in a way. And I think that's just him. I think he's just like, yeah, I voted you out. It's just a game. Let's just hug, and Corinne being strapped down to where she couldn't get away from the hug is my favorite thing in the world. Because like someone just voted you out. You're about to get flipped through a wall. And then other people were like, oh, but we love you. I'm like, do not touch me, but I think Bobby doesn't have the speed to not do that. Like, I think that's just him. Like, I said these things, get over it. We're in a game. This is just what people do. We're on TV. This is what we do. But then it just looks like, well, dang, how am I going to be able to trust you if you're doing all this stuff to people and then hugging them and then telling us how great they are and then fighting for their revenge and then flipping the next day and voting out the other person? It's very much like a lot from Bobby, but it's great TV. I think we've been robbed of more Bobby content. He needs to be on Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother, or something like that.
Oh
This
my
would be so
goodness.
much fun.
I wonder, like, with the producers, they're so rude. But the fact that they strapped them to this chair and they flipped them out, I would think that every single one of those villains would say, no, I am not allowing you to make me look stupid like this. And they're all doing it, like, seeing like New York, like, like going back. Like, I laughed so hard. I can't believe that they didn't have in their contracts, like, please don't embarrass me this way. Please.
No, we need more like evictions and any sort of vote out needs to be more dramatic and ridiculous like this, because it's like, let's ridicule these people. Like, Like, this
Hey,
is
man.
so freaking funny.
They are known for their personalities, right? That's why this
Yeah.
show works, is because even when it gets stale, these people know how to turn it up for TV. A lot of them are not known for their social games and being like strategic threats or whatever. Some of them are, some of them very much are, but ultimately they know how to show out. And so they know that part of the game is getting strapped to that chair. You know, you want to be the big bad villain. If you want to be able to sit in the supervillain chair, you got to be able to sit in that strap
Strap in,
chair.
baby.
Yeah, and that's okay for me. I appreciate it. You know, I also think about, you know, when you brought up the jury, Chantele, at the end of this, imagine the jury speeches from these people. You know, we've
Oh,
seen a Survivor and Big Brother speeches where we think, oh yeah, that person is crazy. They said some horrible things. These people are walking jury speeches. You know, they're walking, just tear you down. I don't know who the final two is, but there's no world where they're not getting, you know, their asses handed to them in the finale of this. And dear God, if there's a reunion, you know, like that's the
Oh.
kind of stuff we come here for villains for. This is my type of content.
Or hope maybe like the final thing is like a roast from like
Yes.
the previously evicted or you know, shot out of the chair. Like they come back to like roast the final two or the final three. That would be what I wanted.
if they're not utilizing all of these huge personalities that made themselves like villainous icons, if they're not utilizing them in some capacity at the end of this show, then I feel like that is the biggest like fumble of all time, because we came to see these characters, and obviously it's a game and people need to go for someone to win the game, but a lot of these shows bring these people back in some capacity at the end, whether it's for a vote or you know, we see it on Claim to Fame where they're there to just kind of like help or hinder people at the end of the game. So bring them back. Obviously, this has already happened, but
Yeah.
I am just putting it out into the universe that I hope that we have not seen the last of you know, the three people that have been banished so far.
What if it's
Yeah,
a group task, kind of like, you know, in Top Chef, how
Oh,
like they bring all the
Yeah.
chefs
Get your
back to
sous
like
chefs up
do
there.
like
Yeah.
a big meal or something like that. Like maybe they're gonna
Yeah.
bring back all the evicted super or villains, bring them back in, and they have like their teams that they're gonna be working on to do some big super villainous task, and then that's gonna help to determine the winner.
I would
Yeah.
be totally fine with that, because like, you know, you can't even figure out which of these people are truly like each other,
Right.
because so it's like, imagine getting to the end and you're like drafting someone you think is going to help you, and then they're like sabotaging you, like
Absolutely.
that's fun, that's great.
Yeah.
That's what would
Um,
happen.
Shake ends up on the team with Omarosa and Jax, you know, and you're like, sir, what are you gonna do here?
Yeah.
What do you really think is gonna happen right now? Yeah, Omarosa, Jax, and Fair Play are all on Team Shake at the end of this. It's not looking good.
It'd
You
be
know,
hilarious.
we Chantele, last week we had asked, we were talking about Shake and his villainous edit and the way that he is becoming a villain and saying that he was coming into his own. And in this episode, it really did feel like Shake finally said, "You know what? This is who I am. I'm good with this. I'm good. I was trying to pretend to be nice." Are you very familiar with Shake? I know you do watch the
Love is
what is it? Love
Blind.
is Blind. Yeah. What do
Mhm.
you think about Shake this season?
Yeah.
I mean, I was never a fan of Shake for sure. I understood
Did he
why
have
he was.
fans?
I mean, no, I don't
He
think
has
so.
one who really likes vapes.
Oh,
That
yeah, what the heck was that?
Chappell, I almost texted you at that moment, and it turned out you hadn't watched it yet, so it was good I didn't. I was just like losing. I was like,
So like
the vape king, the
I
smoke
didn't,
king.
I didn't know that this was like a kink out there. Like people
I
watch.
knew smoke kink was a thing, but I
Wait, you
guess
did?
vape. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
What's okay?
Oh
Tell me more about
yeah.
smoke
Turned on
kink.
by like watching people smoke. So like, there's definitely people. Listen,
Can I start an
there's
OnlyFans for like I'll just smoke a vape?
Look,
yes,
I smoke
I'm
all the
telling
time.
you,
This would be
there
perfect for me.
there
I
is
thought I had to get
a
my
there.
feet out, but if it's just a vape, like
I smoke
okay.
with my shoes off. If you want to see my feet too,
You need
there's
you
some
need
money.
to you need to get in touch with Shake's guy, although he probably isn't going to want to share the bag that he's getting from this guy in Indiana. But I died when he's just like, yeah, I'm sending I'm just sending my empty vapes to this strange man.
Very, very, very interesting kink.
Anyway,
So wasn't a fan of Shake. Understood why he was cast in the show, but he's also, I found, like, he's boring to me. Like, I just don't find him to be like a fun villain. Like, he was just like kind of like a rude and like misogynistic person on the show. And so it wasn't really a villain. He was just like a shitty person. What we saw, anyways. And
we're
so
like, this is just what a lot of guys are like, sadly.
kind of, you know what I mean? And so it kind of annoys me, the fact that he doesn't even know who all these villains are. I'm just like, get out of here. Like, you don't know who Spencer Pratt is. Like, who are you? You shouldn't be on this show. Like, I
She
love
doesn't
the
even
fact
go
that
here.
exactly
even go
that,
here.
you know, fair play and Omarosa, they've been called villains for so long that they like created this category of people on reality TV, and they know the other super villains and other of the villains from other shows and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. And so with Jake, I'm just kind of like, yeah, maybe you're coming into your villainy a little bit more right now, but like, I'm not really a fan. I don't need to see him on season 2 or coming back, or you know, it's fine.
I feel like
I'm
he
okay.
talks like a big game, and then like in situations he falls flat, where it's like he has these confessionals where he's like, all right, like, you know, I cared a lot about what people thought about me at first, and now I'm like, I don't really have any friends here, so now I can just kind of do like what I need to do. And you know, this feels kind of right. Like he thinks he's like, he's kind of like gassing himself up in the confessional, being like, maybe I am a villain. And then he goes and like tries to have like a conversation with Anfisa and like just does a terrible job, because she's just like, I don't trust you.
Corinne more.
I like, like sorry. So
I love
I
it.
don't know. I just think it's not happening in practice. Like I think that he just comes off in these conversations just looking like kind of weak again.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to play the game. Like, that's the thing. He might be a villain. We definitely know he's a jerk to a lot of people, you know.
Yeah,
But
does villain equal jerk?
right, yeah. I think for Shake it really does. I think he's just kind of brash, very rude. You know, he's not like you say, he's not nice to women. He doesn't seem like very, you know, very likable to be around for long periods of time. And so I guess, yeah, in a way that would make anybody a villain. But I think Shake's weakness here is that he doesn't know these games. So when he goes to somebody like Anfisa, right, and so when he, yeah, so when he goes to people like Anfisa, he said, "Hey, Anfisa, you know, I really think we should work together because Corinne's not good for your game." And she looks at him and says, "You do realize that the last challenge you won, you thought you won, and then pointed at me and said I was toast. Why would I work with you to take out Corinne, who has not done that?" And he's like, damn, you're right. That's crazy. That's wild.
He's like,
man.
well, I got to deal with that now.
Yeah, he's like, well, yeah, that's a thing that happened. But be that as it may, I'm still right. He's like, no, you're not. You're not right. She does end up voting on Corinne, but it's not because Corinne, like Shake was massively good for her game. It's because Shake was immune, because this was a veterinarian challenge, y'all. A challenge for vets.
Are you on the side of
Tanisha,
and that this was not fair, even though we hear Matt from production talking to her saying, we don't know who's going to be in these challenges, but like that's up to you guys. So
and he also, I don't know if this is comforting or not, but being like, we're not going to kill you. We aren't going. You're not going to die. We're not going to kill you. That's how he's getting her to do
yeah,
this.
They probably still had to like sign something away that like if something happens to them while they're there, it's not the production company's fault.
They did that before episode 1. They did that when they signed up to go on the show. They signed away all their rights. But I thought this was so entertaining, because you know these conversations happen on reality shows all the time. We just don't get to see them. You know, there's definitely times where in Big Brother or something like that, where a challenge feels just massively unfair, and you have to go over and be like, really, this is what we're doing, and the producers probably tell you, calm down. We don't know who's going to be here. That person could have easily got it voted out. But to that, I would have said, he's a vet. So even for y'all putting this challenge in here at any point makes this massively unfair to the rest of us, because he is never going to be afraid to put his hands in this rat and snakes and scorpions. Like, he's going to do it because
asses.
and horse. horses,
If that was
asses,
the challenge, I can
and,
understand why they were freaking out, but
and,
that
and
wasn't the hole they had
fish.
to put their hand in.
Yeah, and fish and other things with legs like snakes, you know. So yeah, I think that they have an argument to say this isn't fair, but I think some challenges are just going to be better for other people. It just so happened that this is the one he needed to save his ass, and he did it. I mean, they didn't stand a chance.
But
If
they did stand a chance because they could have ganged up on him
I
and
know.
got him out really quickly. Like, honestly, like, okay, yes, creepy crawlies, snakes, rats, whatever, gross. But like, literally, there's like 30 coins that they can grab from each of the little containers. Like, it wasn't going to be
And they
that
seem
hard.
pretty big. Like it's
Yeah,
yeah,
Ooh,
here's
so y'all would do this challenge?
easily. I would
I
Yes,
mean,
Chantele, fearless.
if I thought that winning it was very vital to me still having a chance to get 200K, then yes. And I
Oh yeah.
freaking hate bugs, like bugs especially. But like I don't fuck with snakes and stuff like that. Like I don't want to be dealing with any of this stuff.
I'd rather put
But
my hand in than eat it. Like, I don't want to eat anything nasty.
oh, 100%. Also, it's dark, so you can't even really see
You
it.
can't see
So
it.
you can
Yeah.
do like a mind over matter shit where you're like,
Stuffed animal.
pretend it's not even what it is because you can't see it. What you don't know can't hurt you. And I just feel like the coins or whatever the hell they had to grab, the tokens were pretty big. They had gloves on. So, and I have fears, obviously. But I think that I would probably still push through to try to do it. And if this were any other setup for a competition, like they had such an advantage. When I saw that it was, a challenge where you are putting things in another person's slot to like eliminate them, the whole point of this, setup was that we just need to make sure Shake gets eliminated. So Tanisha and
easy.
Corinne are going to work
Fast.
together. It just so happened you got one person who is extremely comfortable with creepy crawlies because of their profession, and two people who have extreme fears of them. And it was just the perfect storm. But I just think in so many other scenarios, we would be saying, like, oh, this is so unfair to Shake because
Yeah.
he got a
Mhm.
challenge where all it took were two people working
Gang up
together
on
to
him.
get the other person out.
Right.
Are you
And
afraid of creepy
also,
crawlies, Chappelle?
oh no, this doesn't bother me at all. You know,
Would you
and
eat
I,
'em?
and I actually, yeah, sure, whatever.
You
Yeah,
eat them.
animals are food. I'm sorry, I said it. Yeah, boo, boo, I said it. Yeah, yeah. This doesn't bother me at all. I love snakes. I love snakes. My favorite animal, and so this would have been heaven for
Really?
me. Yeah, but some could argue.
Heaven.
Oh, I love snakes. I love snakes. I every time
I
I
gotta
see a snake,
change your
like
emoji in my phone to
when,
a snake now, I guess.
it still fits. Yeah, but I think, like Jenny, when that cat ran behind you in your video just now, Chantele goes, "Oh," like that's how I am with snakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they sit
Okay.
there and snakes
I
each other.
get
I was
that.
like, "Oh, okay, cool." But some could argue that it's an unfair advantage for someone like Corinne who has done Celebrity Fear Factor. Remember, she was on that Celebrity Fear Factor. Where was it? Survivor versus Big Brother versus The Bachelorette. So it's
I don't think I watched this.
Do you remember who
Or-
was with her on hers?
So I believe it was Brendan and Rachel were
Oh,
from
okay,
the
it's that one.
Oh,
from
okay,
the
it was
Amazing
that one.
Race.
I watched
Abby
it.
Maria, Sierra Don Thomas, Cody, and I think that Corinne and them had done the one prior to that. And so yeah, they do this before. So what was it? The Rachel Lindsay was from The Bachelor,
Okay.
or The
She did that
Bachelorette.
nastiness? I don't think I saw her episode.
Yeah,
Wow.
Alexis from The Bachelor as well. Someone, Nicole, what was it? Alexis Waters, Nick Vial, was like, I guess they were on his season or whatever. But anyway,
Yes.
yeah, Corinne has done challenges like this before. So someone could argue and say, well, it's Corinne, you've done Fear Factor. It did not go well, which Corinne
Yeah.
will tell us in this episode. But yeah, I think that there are different skills that work for different people at different times. And this just happened to be Shake's day. Like you said, they were gonna gang up on him anyway, because it's Shake, it's easy for us to be like, boo, this wasn't fair to Tanisha. We love her. But, I mean,
I
this
think
is
they
House of
balanced
Villains. It's
it
not going
out
to be
by
fair.
making it like they can gang up on him
Mhm.
if they
Yeah.
can
Exactly.
get their
If they
hand
could just
in
get
the
their
damn
hands
box.
in the box. Yeah. Crazy times.
Yeah. So it makes me kind of wonder, like, the result of this competition in that, Corinne at least tried. She was putting her hand in the box where Tanisha, her hand did not enter any of these boxes at all. And it seemed like, some of their allies were disappointed after. Do you guys think that played into the consideration of the vote in terms of like who is a better ally to keep whatsoever? Because it did kind of seem like we were getting stuff from Bananas being like, she didn't even try. Like, this is, like Corinne at least put some effort in, and Tanisha didn't even try. And, as much as you want someone that you can trust, you also want to know that that person is going to like try really hard to win things if they need to, in terms of like getting Supervillain of the Week to keep you safe. So do you think that like Tanisha really just completely throwing in the towel and not even trying like actually played into any consideration in getting rid of her? Or did it really just come down to who is going to cause like, who does Omarosa not want here, and who is going to be a disruptor against Omarosa, who we're seeing as overall a bigger problem in the game?
I think that Banaz was being, honest with how he was feeling about that challenge. Because on the actual challenge, he likes working with people that win power, because when people win power, they keep him safe and he can get to the end and win the season. So I do think that he values people trying and getting over their fears, and people are always applauding when people are like, oh, they're scared to jump and they jumped. Like, so he does come from a background where seeing you push through your fears is something that is celebrated. So I think in the beginning, this was a truthful argument, but I think as they started talking about who to keep, who is better for their game, who is going to be going with after Omarosa potentially, I think then later on they decide to switch it and change their reasonings as to why they want to keep or get rid of each person.
Yeah, and my question is, did Corinne try that much harder than Tanisha? Or did she just get eliminated first?
She was like dipping the hand in.
She got none of them. She got none of the pieces out of that box. How much harder did she actually try? They weren't in there looking. Remember, they see them go in the box. They see them standing there screaming like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!" But it's pitch black in there, so it's not like they know that Tanisha is in there not trying and Corinne is. It's just Corinne got voted out first. Shake took her out, and then Tanisha just walks out and quits. But they were in there for the same amount of time, and they both had the same result. So saying Tanisha didn't try is like, what did Corinne do that was so special? I get it. She probably did try harder than Tanisha, but it wasn't like leaps and bounds. She didn't come out with like, "Whew, okay, I gave it my best shot. I had 3 of them, but I just couldn't get a hold of them." She came out because Shake got her out, and then Shake was about to get Tanisha out too.
The other thing is like, we don't know how quickly he did that, but it might have been so incredibly quick that, seeing how he gets 5 and gets Corinne out immediately, Tanisha is like, I am not. So now it's literally him versus me. And I saw how quickly he did that. I know I'm not going to beat him. So why am I even going to attempt? Like, why would I even put my hands in at this point? It's terrifying me, and it's going to be for nothing ultimately. Like, I'm just going to cut my losses and just go try to work my social game. So in a way, I kind of like understand it from that perspective. If you're like, he did that in 30 seconds, like he was in and out. And like, I'm not going to beat that, even if I'm pushing through something that's terrifying to me. Like, I don't care about any sort of moral win here and being like, wow, you pushed through your fears. Like, I am protecting my peace and getting the hell out of this stupid black box. So again, like, we have no idea how quickly he did that.
Do you think another reason why they might have switched the vote is because that Shake went after Corinne? And so if Bananas kind of wants to keep his allyship with Shake and like, okay, well, Shake wants Corinne gone in this situation, maybe we should let this happen. And so that Shake will feel like, oh, these people are working with me. Like, these are my guys, my friends. And so maybe that's why Bananas might have steered the vote that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for Bananas, he wants there to be chaos that has nothing to do with him. He wants there to be, people making themselves targets, as long as those people are not going for him. And that's why, I think he would have been okay with Shake going if ultimately, because that's what would have seemed to have happened if Shake didn't win the competition, is that everyone was just going to vote him out. But him having Shake there is good because no one likes him, but Shake likes bananas. And so that's good for him. And same with Tanisha over Corinne, where it's like, okay, well, Corinne has like, beef with Shake, but for the most part, she's kind of in okay with everyone else. That doesn't really help take any heat off of him. In fact, they're a perceived pair. So that's, if anything, kind of more attention on him. Whereas now there's this huge beef between Tanisha and Omarosa. So that is great attention to have off of him. And I think that that's more so what Bananas is looking for when he's trying to like insulate himself. And also we've seen time and time again, like Tanisha loves Bananas. Like that is her number one ally in the house.
I love that duo.
It's crazy. Like
so unexpected.
The fact that we're having these conversations, the fact that I'm sitting here watching Johnny Banana sitting between Omarosa and Johnny Fairplay at a freaking Waffle House having brunch and like getting into it with like what is this show? So every once in a while I have to like step back and be like, the fact that we're even watching this and we're having these scenarios is so ridiculous and awesome.
It's like an episode of Slop. Like it's like
exactly. Yeah, it's so good. We got some incredible moments in this episode. I will never forget the interaction early in the episode between so we get like after the hit list ceremony, Tanisha's pissed off yelling in the kitchen, and we get the back and forth between Tanisha and Omarosa about Tanisha hates the passive aggressive shit. Omarosa says she's aggressive. Omarosa says she stabbed her in the front, which I'm like, that was not stabbing in the front. You told this woman she was safe. And then, so I don't agree with that. But what killed me was Tanisha's line, "You must be smoking dick." That was the funniest thing I've ever heard. I don't know why it tickled me in a way that like it's like when if this is an expression I have never heard
I've
in
not
terms
heard
of,
this one.
because it's like I've heard someone say you must be smoking crack. It's I love when you get like an insult and then like someone flips the word in there where it's like I can't even come up with an example right now, but like when someone just like bait and switch with like a word that doesn't make sense, but it's like even funnier because it's nonsensical. That's what this was to me. You must be smoking dick. To which Bobby says, I love smoking dick, but that's not what we're talking about here. This was incredible. Like even when Tanisha is mad, like she is so funny.
I know. When she was like bringing in like, you're talking with tangerines and shit. I'm like,
she wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
Omarosa definitely was trying to gaslight her. Like, I came at you 3 times. Man, we all saw that tangerine moment at the table. But smoking dick, people been saying that. That's a thing.
I've heard the term smoking dick, but it was the way in which she used it. Like, like she's saying you must be smoking dick, and so that means like in the way that she would say you must be smoking crack. Like, are you crazy? Like, are you you know what I mean? I just have never heard it.
Well, what's the root for this new turn of phrase?
Oh, it's not that it's not even that like new.
Being victimized. Is that like, you're just like wilding out because you're dick?
Oh, okay.
No,
it's like, I don't know what's going on with me. I was
you must
dick.
be smoking dick because like you're just like not acting straight.
Basically, you tripping. You smoking dick. You must be on some other stuff. But it's like I think I can't remember which viral video it came out from, like 4 years ago or something like that. But it's been in the ethos. But it's not. I mean, who is saying this to people? That's why it's so good.
I would just be using that in the sense of being like, oh, like so this is something that Shake would say. Shake would be like, oh, why don't you go back to the Bachelor franchise where you belong, smoking dick? Like that's how I expect the usage of that phrase. So to hear it like as this way it was art. It was poetry. It was beautiful. And so now this will be entering my vernacular. I will be telling people when they are smoking dick. So be careful.
Welcome. These like I said,
Welcome
it's
in.
been out there, but you've made it. You made it. I
I'm
love
ready.
this. I love Tanisha. I love her going back and forth with Omarosa. I love the gospel choir. I love it
Oh my
so
God.
much.
I
How's it
did
going
not
to
expect
talk
this
about the
to
gospel
be
choir?
when she made this call in the middle of the night, the lights are off, and she says, I got to bring in the big guns. I'm going to go out with a bang. And the choir shows up at 6 a.m. I was
Sold.
not prepared for this.
Perfect TV.
Well,
But
do
no
you
one was pissed off except for like Anfisa.
So do you think that she had this planned in her back pocket if she needed to have this choir? Because I think
I
that
think so.
Bananas likely got his sister to write these little notes in case he
Yeah.
needed to do something villainous. Like, did she think, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to pull out the big guns now. My choir's coming. This is my choir moment. Like, do you think that all of them have something kind of prepared, or just like the great ones?
The greats. The greats know what they're here for.
The
you
one,
know,
yeah.
Like,
the ones,
if
the girls who
Omarosa is
know.
on the block, do you think that she's gonna pull out something wild?
The trump card.
Oh no!
I
Don't
meant like,
pull that. That's
I
not gonna
meant
help you.
figuratively. No, I meant figuratively. I didn't think, you know what I meant.
Is that the
She's
dick
gonna
she's
pull out-
smoking? Just
Ah!
questions.
Don't ask New York.
Yeah, she will say, yeah, New York
Absolutely.
is definitely accusing Omarosa of all sorts of dick smoking.
Of using the trump card, if you will. No, this was a cool move, y'all, because Tanisha is known for her. I mean, that's her big, like, that's her, her signature move is the, y'all kept me up, so y'all not getting no sleep. And then I
She
knew she was going to do
elevated it.
something, but she took it to the next level. Yeah, like it was a point where it was a moment. And I think a lot of these reality TV people are known for their moments, right? We know that New York is a moment, but like we know that Johnny Fairplay is the guy who lied about his grandma. We know that Anfisa is the gold digger. Like they all have their little monikers and stuff like that. Tanisha is the bad girl, and she is the bad girl that woke everybody up with the pots and pans. And so I loved it. And then I love Omarosa even trying to disarm it and be like, you know what? If I play into this, she has no power over me. Yeah, and this is what happens when you put the masters on here. They play chess like no other. This is good.
And I also think they're all fame whores, and so they like the fact that, like, do you know what? She just brings more to the show. We want the show to be a hit. We want to have success from the show. Corinne, as much as we like her, she's not really bringing like such theatrics to the season, and so I think that's could be another reason why they wanted to keep Tanisha, is because like she knows what the assignment is, and it's to make some good TV. So she did.
And I was trying to figure out, like, so when Tanisha did this, was she doing this as like, I think I'm in trouble? Because this is part of what I found surprising about how the vote ended up ultimately going, because when she has that conversation after she loses the comp, she's outside with, I think, Fairplay and Bananas, and she's basically like, I think that you guys are probably going to keep Corinne. Like, she's saying to two people that are supposed to be her biggest allies that, they were not going to keep her. And the conversation I thought was kind of awkward. And then they just all go to bed. She's like, okay, we'll see you in the morning. Yeah. So what I'm trying to figure out is, did she think she was like cooked? Did she think she was done? And she was like, I need to have my big moment. Like, New York had her incredible speech when she was going out, doing what she does best in that moment. Like, she had this planned. She knew she was going to use it at some point. And she's like, this might be my last night here. I'm going to bring it in just so that, like, have my good TV moment and just show these people like who I am. Or did she really think that there was like a strategic element of this move? Because again, like what I was saying before, people showing that they're true villains, good TV, like, is that playing into people wanting to keep them there because people care about making the TV show good? Like, I don't know. I was just trying to figure out, like, what was the motivation?
I think that she had planned to use the choir, and she thought that she was going out, so she needed to go out with a bang, and the repercussions worked out better than she thought. I don't think that she originally intended for it to work and get her to stay in the house. I think that she's like, oh, I have these, they're supposed to be coming. Okay, let me get the choir in and before I go out. So I think she thought she was leaving.
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. in the morning. So, they didn't even have time to rehearse. So that means she had them on standby. They had already worked out the routine. She knew they were gonna sing. She knew what song it was, how it was gonna go. And so when they come in, she already knew who the pieces were. It's really tough to scramble at night to find people to show up at 6 a.m. to anything, right? So this was planned. She just had to pull the press the button faster.
Yeah.
Like she probably was saving it maybe like for a finale or a big moment. Thought, oh God, this might be it. Let me go ahead and do this. Now, does she do anything to top it? I'd be very happy to see her, try to take it to the next level if this happens to her again.
Now, did
Well,
she
that's
write
the
the
thing.
lyrics?
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna get a remix? Like,
are we gonna get a
'cause-
single? Like, I'm
Yes,
just
a single.
saying.
because I thought we were, when we were halfway through this episode, I was like, I can't believe this is now going to be our last episode with Tanisha too. And she's still here. She brought out her big guns, but I know she still has more in the tank. So,
Yes.
and I mean, from how it looks, like it's not over.
I'm kind of worried because I do find that Omarosa sometimes plays a little dirty, and so it seems like in the next episode that she's kind of saying that she's scared of being around Tanisha, which I don't necessarily like, her making Tanisha look like she's going to be super violent with her, which I don't think she would be. Even with her saying like, oh, she's weaponizing womanhood or motherhood. I was like, I don't think she was actually intending on doing that, but like the way that Omarosa spins things sometimes is well, it's definitely villainous, but it worries me that she's gonna like make Tanisha look worse than she actually is, put her in a worse light.
I wanted to comment on that as well, because when they have that interaction in the kitchen early in the episode, and Tanisha is saying like, I'm a mom and like I left like my whole life to be here. I didn't take that as her saying like, I need this money, and because you put me up, then you're taking that money away from my kid, which is like what Omarosa kind of rephrases it as later, where she said that she basically said she was taking the food out of her kid's mouth. I took that as like, I want to be here. This opportunity is important to me. And I am not like, I thought we were cool and that mattered more to you. Yeah. And like, I could have been with my kid this entire time. And I don't know. I just didn't think it was like a money thing, especially because then we get this thing when they go out for brunch, which was awesome. Where they're basically like having like everyone's throwing their dicks on the table.
Whoa.
They're not smoking them though. But it was like a dick measuring contest where they're basically being like, well, I have like Omarosa's like 30 million right over here. And then Tanisha's like, I make that alone on YouTube. And like Tanisha's always like dogging like Omarosa's outfits, and like she's like, I'm wearing Gucci shoes, yours were $4.99 at TJ Maxx or whatever. Like, so I don't necessarily, because she's kind of also constantly flexing that like she's good, she's got money. So I don't necessarily think that was the card that she was playing with Omarosa. It was more so just like, that was like kind of weird to do to a woman, that I left my kid to be here. But I don't know. I agree though. Omarosa does play dirty.
Yeah, especially because we saw in the flashback that Omarosa was one of the first people who brought up Tanisha being a single mother. Yeah, remember like the first and second episode, Tanisha, I love that you're doing this. You're a single mother. So then when Tanisha brings it up, she's like, oh, look at you bringing up the single mom thing. It's like, well, you used it to bond with me.
Yeah.
So now I can't use it when we are not bonding. So it only works when you
broke that bond.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's same with the floater strategy. We don't like she's a hypocrite. She's just a hypocrite in all senses of the word.
But that's part of the game. It is what it is. The game is the game. I'm not going to say like, oh, this is a horrible thing to do to somebody in real life. It's to gaslight them, lie to them or whatever. But yeah, you need this person out of the game because they're targeting you at this point, so say whatever you got to say to make it look like they need to go. And that's what Omarosa is going to do. It's going to be very fun to watch.
Have you guys pulled up Tanisha's YouTube channel? Like I
have not.
No.
I've not.
Mm.
But that's I have never seen Bad Girls Club. I'm only
Yeah, same.
familiar with Tanisha from just like YouTube clips and different
Yeah,
shows
same.
that she's been on. I've seen like a lot of content from her, but never in her actual origin story. So it never drew me to her YouTube account. But I know that the Bad Girls stands are they probably all over Tanisha's YouTube and Instagram comments.
So I haven't seen all. There's a lot of episodes of Bad Girls Club, but if you remember Angela, you guys, well, you watched the challenge, Jenny,
Yeah.
right? Or both you do? Okay. So Angela, she dated like bananas at one point on the show, and like it got a little
hasn't?
messy. But anyways, she was on Bad Girls Club, and that's how
Okay.
that was her foray into reality TV, and
Okay.
so. I watched her season because I was just like, what? Like, how is she from Bad Girls Club? Because she's just kind of like a little bit more pretty and prissy. And so that was the only season that I watched in its entirety. I don't know specifically Tanisha's season, but obviously I know the concept of the show.
Yeah. I mean, she's made me a fan in 6 episodes. Like, I've really, really enjoyed her. And as much as I was enjoying Corinne, like, I'm ultimately, I think the right thing for the show happened here, which is ultimately like what we're here for. And I'm right there with you, Chantele. Like, I hope that it doesn't get so messy that it like feels dirty.
Yeah.
And that like, because I want fun mess, you know what I mean? And that's what this show has mostly been. It's been funny. Like the fights are funny. Like some of the stuff that's being said is like pretty wild, but also it doesn't feel like anyone is really taking it
It's not a low, actual
terribly.
Low.
Yeah.
Like comical.
Yeah. So I hope that energy remains, but we'll see what happens between these two, because this is definitely like the growing conflict. So should we talk quickly about?
We have?
I think the finale is December 14th, so that would give us 1, 2, 3, 4 more, so 10 episodes total. That I think I did the math right.
Yeah, probably about 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we've got to get down to a few people. That's why I'm saying, like, how is this going to end? Because if we only have 4 more episodes left, and the cycle seems to be 2 episodes until someone actually goes, which I've enjoyed because it gives us more time with people. How are we going to get down to, again, how many people are going to be in the finale? Like, how does it end? So it's hard to say, but should we quickly address our guest of Spencer Pratt here? Because I just feel like what a letdown. What a weird like segment it was. This was the person I was most excited for, because I am in terms of my familiarity with the supervillains that are just there for cameos. This was the one that I was like, oh, yes. Like, I am very familiar with Spencer Pratt's work.
Absolutely.
So I was the most excited. And it was a letdown. It was a letdown for everyone there. Like, it was, and I loved that they had it that way, where we were getting to hear them react in the same way that we all kind of were being like, oh, you're supposed to be a villain? Like, it was,
well, they
so
said a villain gone soft, and I don't think it was a smoking dick reference.
No.
No, don't think that.
We need a dick counter in this episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
It's been a lot.
I didn't know what to expect from Spencer. I'm not very familiar with his work. I am familiar with Spencer because, like, in the same way I'm familiar with Tanisha, right? Where they are a villain and they're everywhere. At a certain time, they're all over the TV. They're in the tabloids. They're everywhere, right?
And he used to talk with RHAP with
yeah, exactly. He used to podcast with Rob. And so and Robin Tyson. And so so that's a thing. So I didn't know what to expect from him here. But yeah, watching everybody call him a letdown and him being like, okay. It was in a weird way kind of villainous, because people are expecting you to do one thing and you just come in and be like, no, I'm not playing your game.
I will not dance for you. Yeah.
Right.
Like subverting expectations. That's fun.
Yeah. I was like, it's just annoying. If he's a villain, I can see it, because he's even pissing off the villains.
He's pretty bad.
Yeah. He's like, because we've seen what he can do with his words. Again, his heyday was long ago, and I don't really like, he's clearly mellowed out. Apparently his Instagram is just him and
crystals.
hummingbirds. I think him and Heidi have 2 kids now.
2 kids.
So obviously, like, his lifestyle is a little different, but I just thought that he still had like the cutting remarks, and we only really see it with his interaction with Bobby, which I thought was really fun. That was like the best part was,
I watched him on Heather McDonald. She's like a stand-up comedian that just talks to like, reality stars and stuff like that. She's kind of in with like the housewives. And so I watch her podcast sometimes, and he always comes on it and gives like the dirt about what's going on in like Beverly Hills. And so I think that they just didn't utilize him in the way that he's good now. He's not really getting into fights with people, but like he'll tell all the dark and dirty secrets about people. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I remember her, she'll talk about like, say, Amber Heard. He's like, I remember her when she first came to Hollywood trying to date Brody, and like we'll tell the gossip. And so maybe he needed to tell the gossip about people, or in his confessional be talking, you know what I mean? Because he talks about people really well, and he always has good tea. So yeah, I think it was just utilized poorly.
Or maybe they just like didn't prepare him well for this, so he didn't really know like what
to do.
Maybe if he had seen footage of like what the previous people who had been on, like how they, because sometimes like when you're going to do something, it's like, give me a template to know like what people are doing here, so I know what you're expecting of me. And so he might have just not realized that like they had higher expectations for him to come in and like, do your best work. Like, show us why you were chosen to be like a cameo to present this comp here. And he kind of just came in there like matter of factly being like, all right, hey guys, like this is what you're gonna do.
He does say he felt like home. He never felt more at home.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, like, I mean, but it's not like he was leaps and bounds worse than Danielle Staub. Like, what did she do?
I agree, because I wasn't familiar with her, so I was just like kind of judging from what everyone else was saying. But she like at least delivered in terms of, overstaying her welcome in the house and people being like, what is this broad doing here? But I just wish that we had gotten more banter, because that is where Spencer kind of shows up, is like he can kind of dish it right back to you. And we got that only with Bobby, where like Spencer is basically saying like, oh, I feel so at home with like all of these, misrepresented individuals. So insinuating like you're just like people just don't understand. You're misunderstood. You're not really villains, just like me. Like I'm just misunderstood. And Bobby's like, I'm not misunderstood. I am a true villain. And Spencer's like, okay, well, I'll be honest, I've never heard of you, which is like the worst possible thing you could say to Bobby. You know what I mean? Like the biggest attention whore of the cast. And I say that with love, and I'm sure that he would say the exact same thing, where he's like, I'm pretty current, so that's probably why you're not familiar with me. Like
that
just
was nice.
calling him
that was a nice comeback.
washed.
Yeah. Well, I'm current.
Spencer just goes, I'm on TikTok.
Yeah, he's like, I'm current. I see what the kids are doing. They're ticking and talking. I do that. Yeah. I'm with Spencer on this one. I'm old. Look, I get it. I'm not current.
I'm not current either.
No, there's a bunch of old people on this podcast right here. So,
this is the senior. This is the senior group. It's us. Yeah. We're like, back in our day, the Hills was a thing.
Yeah. They did a reboot recently, so.
Of like other people, like
oh no, the Hills, like no, remember like recently, like last year,
like the Hills.
No, I
totally missed that. They did 2 seasons of the Hills.
That. I didn't watch it, but I saw it. Yeah.
Was everyone back? Was Justin Bobby there?
Justin Bobby was there.
Oh my god, I had such
Pamela
a crush
Anderson's son is on it.
Oh my god. What?
Obviously Brody.
Okay. I need to go back and watch this. I need to see if Justin Bobby has aged well, because I've been loving Toxic Men my whole life, baby.
Oh, so you're number one Bobby fan.
I loved Justin Bobby. I was watching Audrina and just being like, I get it, girl.
Audrina's on it again. Obviously, she's kind of annoying.
Combat boots on the beach, yes, girl, yes.
So my god, you have 2 seasons that you get to watch of the
wow. Well,
I feel like they didn't play a finale for season 2, but it came back.
Okay, well, I didn't realize that he was even doing anything except for apparently like hanging out with hummingbirds on Instagram. But it was funny that he flopped and getting like the confessionals of everyone being like, what the hell? Like, because he came in and everyone was like, this is a legend. Like, Omarosa's being like, me and him are up for Supervillain or whatever, reality TV villain of the year, like, 3 years in a row. Like, everyone giving him his flowers. And then he's just like awkward.
Like, man, that's fine. He's grown up. That's the sad thing about watching
He's a dad
your heroes. Now. Watching your heroes and your villains. They get older, they retire from villainy and heroics, and I
they
think
go soft.
They go soft. You can't be a villain your whole life, right? Like, no one wants
and
to
that's
die
the
a villain.
thing. Well, and I'm sure that he's probably in a healthier place in his life. Like, he's probably as a person doing much better.
Way better. Yeah.
But I think that maybe he just needed to know that, like, the show was expecting him to play a part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't want Spencer Pratt present day. They wanted you to summon the beast that lives like deep in there and was on the hills. And
maybe they should have brought him and Heidi together, because on the actually more current season of The Hills, Heidi gets really drunk on tequila. It's like, like tequila, Heidi's out, and she was like, she was on one. And so like they got into this big fight. So maybe they need to be doing some shots of some tequila, then bring both of them into the house and see what happens. I think
unleash drunk Heidi and Spencer into the house and just be like, here you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Do we know who our next cameo is going to be, or we have no clue at this point? Because I think they telegraphed Abby Lee, Spencer, and Carol Baskin in the previews, but I don't know if they have a person who can be next. I'm very excited to figure out like who's the next villain.
There's got to be more, right? Like, if you're gonna do it in every episode, you'd think, right?
Right, bring me like Richard Hatch or something like that. Just give me somebody like a blast from the past, somebody who's just good at being a villain that everyone knows.
But maybe they're gonna bring a current villain, like, or a current person that we just we don't know.
Well, Chantele, who's a current villain that you would think about? Because Shaq's pretty current.
Shaq's pretty current.
But Bobby says he's very current.
Bobby's current too. But I wonder who's like the new villain. Like, who's the new up and coming villain in the streets? Like, who should we be looking out for?
I'm like racking my brain. I have no idea. Am I not cool anymore?
They just don't make them like they used to.
I don't know about that. I think we probably got about 7 candidates from this most recent season of Big Brother who could go on this show, but I don't want to call anybody out.
But that's the thing is, like, are any of those people? You need to have self-awareness about being a villain and own it. It's like, there's nothing worse than a villain that doesn't own it. Like, then that just makes me dislike you. Like, you like the bad person that thinks that they're the good person.
So
I don't know if you guys are watching The Golden Bachelor, but there is a woman that could be a super villain or a villain on The Golden Bachelor.
No, but that sounds great.
She said, zip it. Like, it's like her whole thing is like, she told a front runner to zip it.
Oh yeah.
Check that out.
Yeah. I feel like there's almost always someone that gets into that position on like each Bachelor season, but I've fallen off on The Bachelor, but
this is The Golden Bachelor though, so it's different.
Yeah. It's golden.
I know. It's golden.
We can relate
with
more.
With the capital OLD.
Well, the other thing is, like, so the people that are here that make, the cameos, so the Spencers and the Abby Lee Miller and all of that, like, were they in the mix to be on the show and just couldn't do the whole thing? And they're like, how can we use these people? Were they seen as like, I don't know, like what, like how, because these are people that in another world you would say like, they could also be on the cast. Because we even have this conversation where Tanisha and Corinne are like hyping each other up to get into the challenge. And Tanisha's saying to Corinne, who's like terrified, like, hey, you beat out all these people to be on the show. Like, you can do this. So clearly, like, obviously there are other people in contention to be on this show. It's not like just they asked 10 people and the first 10 people and they all said yes and this was the cast. So I'm curious, like, how these other people were involved and they were just like maybe not big enough to have on the show, or like they don't have the stamina to like
Or
be on, like, you know
maybe
what I mean?
their
They can't carry the
price.
whole show, or
Maybe
the
their
price.
price to get on the show. Like, so
Yeah.
That's a
maybe
good point. Money talks.
Spencer Pratt is like he's like, I'll go on it for $100,000. And they're like,
Right.
well, we're only offering 25. It's like, well,
Right.
I'll do a
Yeah.
cameo and you can pay me 25, but I'm not going to come on the
That's-
show. So that's
Yeah.
probably
To me, some of these names are bigger to me than, like, again,
Yes.
this is me showing like my ignorance perhaps, because I have not watched all of these shows and I'm not familiar with everyone, but I just think that some of the people on the actual cast are bigger names than some, like, people that have come in to make cameos. So in my brain, I'm like, they were like the B list.
Oh
And
no, 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 no.
utilize them in some way.
I completely disagree. I think that the cameo people have been like massive stars. You know, like Spencer is Spencer. You know, like he's just Spencer. That everyone knows him from The
But
Hills.
like Carol Baskin,
but
like
she didn't do a video.
Carol
Or like,
Baskin
like a
didn't even
video
show
chat,
up.
you know?
She was like, "You can't afford me." You know, I think that is that because who doesn't know Carol Baskin? Like, you have to explain to somebody who Bobby
Right.
Lights is. Who doesn't know Carol Baskin?
Well,
You have to
maybe
explain
if
to somebody
someone
who
was like in a
Anfisa is.
coma during 2020, they might not know who Carol Baskin is.
Yeah, that's true. But you'd have to have been in a coma. You know,
But, and,
like,
and not on TikTok because like Carol
ex-
Baskin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
Killed them, whacked them. You know, and so yeah, I think that I'm sorry. I think you cannot afford the people who you got the cameos from. Like Abby
And
Lee
that's
Miller is
completely
the title
possible.
person of her show. You know, so I really and
Yeah.
obviously Abby Lee Miller,
she's
no,
not
you're
going on this season.
she's not doing this. But you know, but
Yeah.
that's part of their villainy. But I do agree that there's probably a list of people that were like, hey, I'll phone in, I'll do a video call, I'll host a comp, but you can't have
And
me.
it might have
or
been
then
a
maybe
mix.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Some
I think
people
that
were too
there's definitely-
expensive. Some people couldn't do the whole time, and some people they were like, maybe not great for the whole cast,
Right.
but like let's have you on one episode.
And you want to bring in different people for different reasons. You know, you bring in Anfisa because she's not like the other villains, you know, because she is from 90 Day and she has a very specific niche, you know, for where her category is. Like people like Johnny Fairplay and Johnny Bananas probably fit closer into the same category, and they're
For sure.
such huge names, you know. But I think that I think that so far they're batting 1,000 as far as like name recognition with the cameos.
But
I'm
they're
very
bringing
interested
like
in who's
that.
coming next.
That's why I think the cast itself is just so well put together, because they took people from different corners of reality TV so that, like, you know, there's a little bit of, there's something for everyone, you know, because very few people watch every single one of these shows. Well,
Except
maybe
us.
not very few people. There's
Right.
lots of people.
All the people listening
but,
to this.
But like that is how you do an all-star type cast. Is you're going to bring in viewers from all sorts of places because they're going to follow the people that they know from these other shows to do whatever they do. So it is smart to have someone from 90 Day Fiance. Like it is smart to have someone from Love is Blind on here. Even though they're not shows that you would say are like, you know, the filter over to a show like this where it's like a competition reality. So I would love, again, are we getting another season of this, do we think?
Got to.
I think so, but the one thing the problem is, I think, with casting is that nobody's really villainous anymore, in my opinion. Like nobody is going on to play that role. Nobody's getting cast to play the villain anymore. Like this season of Survivor, are there any villains on it? No, not really. You know, Big Brother, I know you're saying that there's some villains there, but like I just don't know if they're the villains like the Omarosas,
like
the Johnny Fairplay, like that we used to have, before everybody was like worried about their image and their Instagram followers and their brand and becoming influencers. So I don't know if there can actually be new villains created in this new era of like social media and television.
That's the thing, because these people would have been like absolutely ripped apart on social media and in the day. So yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that there's enough names out there that we got this cast and that we could potentially get another cast, because I've seen people floating some ideas for future seasons if we get it. So
let me hear some names. Do you have any offhand?
I'm blanking at this moment, but people have been commenting on the YouTube with some suggestions, and I've also been telling people hit us in the reviews to let us know, first of all, how you're liking the coverage and who you want to see, and maybe if you have any thoughts of the cameos we might see, because some of these names, like, they might be in the mix and we're going to see them in some of these 4 more episodes we've got. But yeah, is there anything that we didn't touch here, or we ready to go smoke some dick?
Okay, I'm not doing that, but I do think that I do think we can wrap up the episode because this was a great time. Chantele, thank you so much.
Yes.
So fun being here. I'm like, I didn't know I was gonna say dick this many times.
I'm sorry. You
today.
should have known
I
with
think
me.
I only said it twice.
I should
I
have.
think I'm good.
I should
Right,
have.
yeah, we get filthy here on Hit or Quit when Rob's not
Yeah.
around.
I'm into it. I want to be a filthy villain.
Yes.
So happy to be here. I mean, I'll come back anytime. I love talking to both of you, and like talking about a show like this is perfect. So
Yeah.
I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
What else you have going on? Give the plug.
What is going on? Well,
Chantele.
we're all gonna see each other soon in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh my
we'll
God,
do like
can't
a recap all together from our hotel.
I'm
room or
saying there's
something.
gonna be an
We got an
episode
that
while
week, and
we're
we
there.
will definitely be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So, what do I have going on? You know, you can find me on Instagram at ShanFranFran, Twitter at Shan___Fran, or my YouTube channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm around. I'm a model. All the above.
Well, thank you for blessing us with your presence. It was really, really fun to get to do this.
Get the F up. Get the F
Yeah.
up.
Chappell, what's
Yeah.
going on with you?
Suitspodcast.com, daily Suits coverage. On the Connect on post show recaps, Mari and I are talking about season 2 of RHAP shit. That's great. Over here on Rob Has a Podcast, Sasha and I are still covering Below Deck. Chantele has been a guest before. It was a great time with her. She's subbing in for Sasha. And so, yeah, still more Below Deck coverage to come. Wrapping up The Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead is ending on post show recaps. I guested on the Lonely Boys podcast with Matt and Brendan to talk about Gossip Girl and The OC, 2 shows I had never seen before. And then, of course,
fun.
yeah. And then, of course, nothing but Netflix with Rob every week. And so this has been a good time. Check me out. Follow me on Twitter at Chappell's_show to keep up with all of that and more.
All right. And, you know, other than what we're what we're doing here, I've been covering FY Island with Kirsten McInnes. We just got caught up on episodes 4 to 6. So check that out on the Hot Dummies on Island feed. And we had some emergency postseason slop. So if you're an RHAP patron, check that out. Puya, Rob, and I, did some little digging through the mess of the postseason of Big Brother 25 last night. And follow me at Jenny Autumn. And we will be back next week to cover episode 7 of House of Villains. Thank you again. Love y'all. Bye.
Peace.